Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're located, and thank you so much for joining us. We are in the midst of a Discord exclusive conversation. The topic, although it may shift depending on the time or as things proceed, is going to be what happens with this $10 billion Bezos bailout, as it's been called, by Bernie Sanders, I believe. He's the one who coined that phrase. What happens if the House approves it? What happens if they don't approve it? What sort of impact is that going to have? That sort of thing. Obviously, it's going to have a very big impact either way. This bill has a huge amount of money reserved for HLS, certainly enough for both Lunar Starship and really either of the competitors. I have a feeling that either Dynetics or Blue Origin could bring their price into accordance with the 10 billion to make the whole thing work if need be. So when it comes down to it, if it gets approved, it's some, obviously there will be a second competitor, and then it'll be a matter of who's having it out. But before I talk any further about this, I'd like my supporters to have a chance to participate in this, ask questions, make their own statements, that sort of thing. So who would like to get started? And this can be done in questions on video, and it can also be done voice-wise. I have a question here already. Let's see. Okay. So currently I have no questions on video, so I am waiting for anybody to speak up. And don't be shy, guys. This is something I've had to get used to myself. But I'm happy to keep talking until somebody would like to ask a question or to make a comment. And all of this will be either voice-wise or questions on video, and exclusively from our Discord audience. So all of that having been said, I will go ahead and get started until somebody wants to go ahead and raise their hand. We have a hand going up from Harold, and now from Twicker's Bernie. We'll start off with Harold. And ASN, can you go ahead and admit Harold for me, please? I apologize. Bear with me for just one moment. This is still a process, guys, as we make this happen. I think we have Twickers online right now. Sorry about that, Harold. We'll get to you in just a second. Twickers.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can indeed. Sorry about that delay.
No worries. Excellent. Well, good to be with you all anyway. Yeah, from Twickenham, England. Listen, my question is, I'm not big on American politics and procedures and that sort of thing, but is it not the case that any money put into the space program is good money? So if Congress give an extra $10 billion, which presumably is going to be in addition to whatever funding NASA already had in place, isn't that going to be good? Okay, Elon might be pissed off because he's got a competitor suddenly, but then again, it might spur him on. But does the 10 billion, does that detract, really, I suppose this is my question, does that 10 billion detract from any other programs? Will it hold back Artemis or anything else?
Could, depending on Elon's reaction to the situation, given that he was awarded the contract, and also given the fact that he has only been given $2.9 billion to participate if Blue Origin, for example, his arch rival, Jeff Bezos, receives a lion's share of the funding, he may feel that both SpaceX and himself are being treated unfairly. And so, therefore, this might go to legal proceedings, and things can get mired very, very badly there. One thing, for example, is the military program called JEDI, and Jeff has had that mired in legal proceedings for quite some time. I don't know; it might be out by now. I read an article about the issue, but he felt that they were not being properly treated. And people who have tons of money to spend on attorneys will tend to get things mired down. And I'd like to say that Elon is going to be the bigger man and not sue, but he's sued before if he feels that he's being taken advantage of, or if SpaceX is not being treated properly. So it could happen. And so this process could be slowed down further if this money is approved. That is the only negative I see in this, Twickers.
Okay, well, as a follow-up then, can I say that when SpaceX put in the bid, everybody...
So, hello, this is
Oh.
Harold Gretzky from Boca Raton, Florida. Is it my turn?
Harold, sorry, yeah, we integrated you a little early. We'll let Twickers finish his statement real quick, and then we'll get you online real quick. Sorry about that. I think we were both, myself and ASN out in Yorkshire. We were kind of working together, and I think that's what created this. So. Anyway, then please, Twickers, finish what you were saying.
To the table, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Angry, just to finish quickly then, my point was really that when SpaceX put in their bid of 2.9 billion, they were expecting, I'm sure, as everybody else was, that NASA were going to pick two contenders for the HLS. So how can Elon be too upset if they go back now and choose somebody?
Well, one of the issues in terms of the in terms of the two contenders is actually Elon did the 2.9 billion based on the idea that there would be one contender. NASA only had the money available for one contender, and that assumption was made when the deal was struck. And that is actually one of the points that Blue Origin has, is that they did not have an opportunity to even produce a counter bid to meet NASA's budgetary requirements. The only company that got an opportunity to come down on their price, or rather to not really come down on their price, but instead stagger out the payments in such a way that NASA could afford, was SpaceX. And so actually Elon was given the assumption that there would be only one participant. And so he may have put in, the bid as he did, with the assumption that his name would be on Artemis, and man's return to the moon would have the name Elon Musk permanently etched on it. And so as a result, he may be quite annoyed over the fact that that is no longer the case. We could still be seeing a legal challenge. In fact, I'd be surprised if there isn't one.
Okay. Well, yeah, I get that. I guess I get that. Thanks for talking to me. Good to be here. Oh. And let's let Harold have a go then.
By all means, and just so you know, I do believe 10 billion extra for NASA is a good thing. I certainly do. It just, if it wasn't for the whole legal process, I'd say that 10 billion is always a good thing. So, Harold, go ahead, please. Are you still there, Harold? Looks like Harold may have jumped off for a second while we were still talking, which, like I say, everybody's got their lives besides me. So I certainly understand that. If somebody else would like to be included in the conversation, or if not, I've certainly got my own stuff to say as far as this is concerned. Oh, there is a question that came up on I apologize. I apologize about that. I mistyped something, but I think it was because I went to questions on video and somehow stepped down from the stage in the process. But yeah, the Senate has approved the bill as it currently stands. Now, of course, the House will probably make modifications to the bill before they approve their version of it, and then the Senate and the House work together to come up with a compromise bill. This is usually the process. Usually, various House members, especially powerful ones, will include their own little pet projects on a wide spanning bill like this one. I mean, this bill encompasses innovation in all kinds of different fields. NASA is only a small part of it. So the House is likely to include a few extra modifications. Then the Senate will have to approve those modifications. This is all the extremely complex process of the American political system. And then once it is approved by both the House and the Senate, then the president will need to approve it. In this case, the president is very likely to approve it unless somebody throws a rider onto this bill that he really, really hates. And the president, as most Americans know, does not have a line item veto. He cannot say, I don't like this part of a bill, I want to take that out. He either has to go all or nothing. So he either accepts the whole thing, including some of the riders that somebody throws on it, even if he doesn't like them, or he rejects the whole thing, which could work against him politically. So, and given the fact that that President Biden has been behind this whole concept and behind this bill from the beginning, I feel pretty certain that if the Senate and the House do approve this, that it will receive a signature from his desk. So then the Bezos bailout will happen in whatever form that may be, and that form will probably come in, Blue Origin and company receiving a lot more money than SpaceX, and so this is why I am feeling my instincts are telling me that we're going to have some sort of additional legal challenge if this bill passes. So I hope not, but it could definitely happen. Okay, that having been said, I am still more than happy and indeed eager to hear from all of you Discord supporters. We have a Starliner Glitch with his hand up. ASN, if you would be so kind as to include him. Hello, Starliner Glitch.
Happy Father's Day, Angry, to you and to all the other fathers out there.
Thank you so much, and to you as well.
My question is, the Senate or the House and Senate are approving $10 billion, but from what I've gathered, Blue Origin's proposal only costs about $6 billion. Are they going to split the remainder of that money up, or is NASA going to be able to use that for other areas of Artemis?
That has not been made entirely clear. I've heard some interpretations saying that the 2.9 billion approved to SpaceX is going to be part of that 10. I've heard other interpretations saying that the 2.9 billion has already been approved based on current NASA funding, and so the remaining 10 billion goes to the other, the second competitor, and then you of course have that spare cash. Now that cash is allocated to HLS. And I think that just about everybody's going to expect this thing to run over budget. Everything that NASA does ultimately runs over budget. It's really rare that it doesn't. Commercial Crew is one of the few examples of things that didn't run over budget. So as a result, they may keep that money in reserve in case aspects of HLS do run over budget, or if they may use the money for, subsequent landings on the moon utilizing the HLS system that ends up being the one chosen, the one that successfully makes it to the moon first, and that could be either one. And we, of course, have no idea who it's going to be either. I mean, we call this the Bezos bailout, but of course, I'm biased. But as you can see, I am still by no means convinced that NASA is going to ultimately select the national team, even though they gave them a higher rating, marginally higher rating in the overall assessment. Those were different people that gave them that assessment, that review. Those people aren't there anymore. So now with a new administrator, new staff, that sort of thing, it could be a whole new ball game once this, if and when this bill is approved.
Excellent. And from what I can also gather, the Dynetics proposal would fit within that $10 billion. So there's hope that they may get selected instead of the national team.
Yes, it's entirely possible. It is my personal hope. It may be a little bit more expensive up front, and there's a good reason for that. The Blue Origin proposal is based on a lot of existing technology, stuff that, whereas the Dynetics proposal, that's all new. All of it is new stuff. So, of course, it's going to be more expensive up front. But on the back end, given the fact that the vast majority of it is reusable, whereas the Blue Origin lander, 2/3 of it is not. And so you're going to need a new transfer element, a new lander delivered every time you go down to the moon. In the long run, for sustainability, the Blue Origin solution is going to be far more expensive than Dynetics, unless there's a problem with the Dynetics lander, unless it just doesn't work. And if it doesn't, then you've got SpaceX. So, and of course, they may make it to the moon first, given how driven Elon is on that entire program. So, but it will introduce competition into the arena, which I've always advocated. Although I don't think it should be Blue Origin. I really think that lander is just entirely too flawed for them to really be a worthwhile competitor, or a safe competitor for that matter.
Do we have any guidance on who gets to go first, what the ordering is, or are they just going to, I guess, go with whoever gets finished first?
Whoever's ready first. That's my interpretation. Whoever perfects the system first, they have to successfully carry out an unmanned landing on the moon, and then a manned landing on the moon with 2 astronauts. That is the requirement of the current contract. And then supposedly, there's these vague references to a sustainable HLS contract as well, and this suggestion that it could be a different company that's involved with that, which seems ridiculous to me. I don't see how that would even be really possible once you've invested a lot of money and research into one lander. If it works, then why are you going to go with a different lander as the sustainable one, unless it turns out to be entirely too expensive? Which, once again, that's the Blue Origin solution. That's the expensive one. You need to deliver the vast majority of the lander needs to be re-delivered every time. It's 2/3 expendable. That just makes it way more costly for the long run and harmful to Artemis. It just does. And I hope that NASA realizes that.
Thank you for answering my questions, and have a good day.
You too, Starliner Glitch. All right, fantastic. Loving this. And once again, guys, thank you so much for your support and for participating in this. I am going to try again to switch to the questions on video. Actually, let me just do this. I'm going to go ahead and check questions on video here, just so I don't run into the possibility of... Okay, so we have a couple of other comments. There's, other than just the option B. Okay, there will likely be other HLS costs bound up. Yeah, this is something Darth Rust is pointing out. other HLS costs bound up in other than just the option B development. There's training, sustainment, planning, landing site surveys, moving the landers to the launch site, integration with the launcher. A lot to spend money on. So really, NASA needs this $10 billion when it comes right down to it. I mean, this is very important unless you're really expecting, I mean, even if it just does stick with just SpaceX, you're expecting Elon to be spending a hell of a lot of his own money on this. And, I mean, I think that he's willing to, but again, is he really going to spend that kind of money just to go to the moon, or is he going to be shifting his emphasis towards Mars? There may come a point, especially if he's the only competitor, if he's the only game in town, to where he can start setting some conditions. I need additional funding in order to complete this job. And NASA will have very little choice but to give him that funding if they want to go to the moon. Not that Elon would really pull something like that, but he would certainly have the ability to. And I'm not inclined to give anybody that kind of power. And it would be nice to have a second competitor in that situation. I mean, it's been mentioned that Elon has quite a lot of political influence right now with NASA because he is the only ride to the ISS. Crew Dragon is the only thing that ended up working. Maybe Starliner is going to come in at some point and be successful, but even if it is, it's going to be way more expensive than Crew Dragon. Crew Dragon is going to be the workhorse of NASA for taking astronauts into orbit. And so as a result, Elon has a lot of political power with NASA and a lot of push with them. So as a result, they're likely to give him a lot of what he's asking for, whether or not that extends to Starlink, whether or not that extends to the FAA is anybody's guess. But right now, he definitely has a lot of pull with NASA, no question. And that could be a very good thing, really. It cuts through a lot of the bureaucratic red tape if you've got that kind of authority. All right. Do we have any other questions? Any comments? Oh dear, am I stuck in a loop? Looks like Twickers just came on. Hello, Twickers.
Hi, I was just wondering if, assuming Elon's, well, obviously he will stay in the race to the moon and such like, but will it affect the timescale of him getting to Mars as well? Will he run HLS in parallel with his Mars program, or will he have to delay the Mars program to do HLS?
I really doubt that Elon is going to let anything interfere with Mars. He just won't. So I would assume that the 2.9 billion is based on his best guess of what kind of additional funding it will require to go to the moon and to Mars at the same time. Now, sometimes Elon can be a little overly optimistic about things, so I don't know if that 2.9 billion is going to be enough. But they've done a lot with a little in the past, as we have seen, so they may be able to do it again. But in my personal opinion, nothing is going to slow down Elon's progress to Mars. He's going to get there as quickly as he can. He definitely has a mission in mind when it comes to that.
So does the NASA contract for HLS, it must have some sort of time clause in it. Obviously, he can't take too long to complete it. So do you know what the time clauses are? How long's he got?
Well, actually, there really isn't. That is one thing that was mentioned very specifically in the contract award. One of the weaknesses that was pointed out with the Lunar Starship solution was the multiple refuelings in orbit and the problems that was going to represent. So, as a result, what you've got, what you have there for, boy, I lost my train of thought there as I was pulling the screen back up. Doggone it. Help me out here, Twickers. What was I just talking about? I'm getting old. I'm getting old.
About a time clause for the HLS contract, but you're saying that You're saying NASA haven't imposed one.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Once again, is when you get old, you'll start losing your mind.
I'm
As
10 years older than you are, Angry. That's the who.
I'll bet your mind is a lot more better. This is a lot better put together than mine. So to get back to that, yeah, they did point out that all of the refueling that is necessary in orbit and all of the other developmental things that are necessary. Keep in mind, this is a comprehensive system to not only land on the moon, but to get to the moon. I mean, arguably, this system could carry humans all the way to the moon by itself. SLS and Orion can just get tossed out in the bin. You know, you don't really need it. And yet, and so as a result, I mean, it's going to be more complicated. And they do point that out, that there could be delays in the scheduling based on their decision and based on the complexity of all the on-orbit refueling. But they said that they were prepared to accept those delays because complications in on-orbit refueling are going to be less complicated than anything that might come up in cislunar space, which is the Dynetic solution. I mean, they're looking at getting refueled out in lunar orbit, which may be more complicated to do, even though it's only a few tons worth of fuel as opposed to all the fuel Starship needs. So that was the conclusion that NASA came to, at least officially, in their assessment and in the award. So
Okay.
yeah, there's no timeline.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing, really.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. As far as I can,
being realistic, it makes it's nice to see NASA being realistic on that score. Then, you know, if they can't impose a time, then they're big enough to admit that. That's good.
yeah, I mean, well, especially since they only made one selection. I mean, they were acknowledging that really they had no choice in the matter, that, you know, and plus they also, you know, recognize the fact that Elon is pushing as hard as he can to get Starship ready anyway. He is the last guy in the world who's going to drag his feet. So yeah, they just, when it comes to a brand new system and a system as ambitious as Starship, I mean, keep in mind, Super Heavy, as I've said a million times, is the most powerful rocket in human history, nearly double the thrust of the Saturn V. I mean, this is a very ambitious project. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't really effectively impose a restriction, a timeline. It's just not realistic to do it.
And I would add that I suspect that the fact that NASA know that Elon's putting in a few billion of his own dollars, that must give him some leeway as well, surely.
Yeah, more than a few. More than a few. Yeah, he's gambling a lot on this thing. Do we have another question? I am also, as I said, paying attention to any questions that may be coming in text-wise. Oh, a lot of other stuff definitely come in. Yeah, I definitely need more coffee. There's no question as far as that's concerned. Okay, there's a statement saying I'm pretty optimistic about Dynetic's chances for the 10 billion if it happens. The table in the award document that is called marginal includes their technical risk of making it on time and on budget. Changing the amount of money available also changes their rating. Very good point, Darth. And if sustainable means multiple landings on a fixed budget after development, it's not good for Blue Origin. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Very glad to hear you saying that, Darth, because you usually have a pretty good insight on how these things tend to develop with your experience with government contracts and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's encouraging. Yeah, I mean, I hate to be so damn biased when it comes to being anti Blue Origin. I hate to take this kind of position. I take no delight in it. I mean, yeah, I make my share of jokes and that sort of thing, and that may help drive views. I have no idea, but when it comes down to it, I would prefer to see Blue Origin do good things, and instead they're coming out with the easiest solution using existing existing technology without thinking through the problems of expendable, elements of the lander, very important parts of it, like the landing element and the transfer element, those are both expendable, at least currently. And then, of course, that stupid ladder, and nobody talking about that. That is what I find to be unbelievable. I mean, how do you expect somebody in an environmental suit to climb up a ladder that's the height of a 3-story building consistently, on a daily basis as they're doing their work with EVAs? They're not going to be just landing on the moon for a few hours or one day like they did with Apollo. We're looking at a whole week of staying on the surface of the moon. So we're talking about going up and down that ladder quite a bit. That is just not practical. It really isn't. And it's not safe either. And it just shocks me that NASA has not recognized this and did not put that into their assessment. And it makes me angry. So, and I don't think anybody's surprised about that. All right. Who's next? Do we have anybody else? And we definitely have other folks who are making some comments. Blue Origin, good things, new Glenn, and cheap, reliable Vulcan engines. Yes, our little comment there. And Tori Bruno is assuring everybody that these engines are going to be delivered and ready to go on time and all that. And that's really nice to hear. And that's definitely something that I would say if I were him, regardless of the circumstances, with Vulcan Centaur and the BE4. But I mean, it's summertime now, and we still don't have a flight certified engine delivered for static fires and testing and such out at the Cape. We just don't. And that, to me, seems like you're really pushing the boundaries, unless you're just expecting Peregrine to be late on arrival. But if that's the case, that still puts ULA in a tight spot, because they've got to have at least 2 successful flights of Vulcan Centaur in order to pick up their military contracts. As I mentioned in a previous video, they need to at least have 2 successful flights of that rocket before they're going to be able to start taking military contracts up on that rocket. And they cannot use the Atlas as of 2023. It will be illegal to use the Atlas because it has Russian engines. So they really seem to be, it's cutting it really fine here. And if I were ULA, I wouldn't be very happy about cutting things this fine. And there's been quite a lot of word in the press about frustration at ULA over Blue Origin's developmental problems with BE4. And this is another reason, by the way, to not use National Team, because Blue Origin is going to need to develop an entirely new propulsion system for the lander. They're the ones who are going to be responsible for the propulsion system for it. And granted, they've been working on it for 3 years, which equates to about 3 months for any other rocket company. And I'm exaggerating there, but still, or 3 minutes for SpaceX, but still, that should be another warning sign to NASA. They should be a little concerned that, okay, not only has this thing got all the problems that we've already identified, Blue Origin has demonstrated an inability to develop propulsion systems, in a timely fashion. And that would be one of our main reasons to go with them, is because this is tried and proven technology that we could probably finish pretty quickly on this lander. But if we don't have the propulsion system ready for it, then it's a useless, hunk of junk. So yeah, there's just too many strikes against that solution, in my opinion. I'm biased, but I just don't see another way of looking at it. I just don't. Any other hands going up? I've been dominating a lot of the commentary here, so I am more than happy to listen to anybody else, to anyone else who has anything to say. We have folks in the audience right now, Discord folks who, by the way, are also Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for jumping in and supporting this channel. It means a lot to me, and I intend to do more of these sorts of things as time goes on. Let me go ahead and check the additional comments. Once again, thank you so much. Happy Father's Day was just wished to everybody and to me as well. I took my daughter and my son out to breakfast this morning. It was a really wonderful experience. I had a great time. My daughter, of course, being at university most of the time these days. I miss her terribly, and she's doing really, really well in the field of engineering. We have a hand up from Abigail Dante. Please, ASN, if we can bring Abigail up into the conversation.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going fine. How are you doing?
Pretty good. At work currently, so sorry if audio quality's bad. But so you were mentioning the NASA spacesuits and how they're for Artemis and how they're not so good. You would think by now we could do something better, eh?
Yeah. I agree completely. When they rolled that thing out and they had that poor young lady come out onto the stage and struggle her way up those stairs, even with a handrail at her disposal, and yet she had to very gingerly come up those stairs. I could tell that she was doing her best not to fall on her face. That's just messed up. It looks even more cumbersome, really, than the Apollo suits. Granted, you're only going to be dealing with 1/6 gravity, but at the same time, you have to get used to 1/6 gravity as an astronaut. Sure, you've trained for it, but you haven't actually done it yourself. So trying to maneuver around in something that huge and that cumbersome, that's going to be tough. Again, especially if they have to go up and down a 10-meter ladder. We can do better. I agree.
So yeah, you would think they would be looking into more of those skin tight spacesuits, the mechanical counterpressure ones.
Yep, it has been claimed by the development team at MIT that if they got $1 to $2 million or so for development, they could perfect the biosuit, as it is called, the reverse mechanical pressure, skin tight sort of suit that is ridiculously easy to maneuver in and can handle, vacuum. It's been actually the limbs of that suit have been tested in vacuum. They just haven't tested an entire human being in it just yet. Obviously, that's taking a big risk there. And as I say, MIT is looking for a couple $1 million more funding to make it work. But I think they probably can make it work. There's no reason, scientifically, or from an engineering standpoint, that it can't. So, yeah, they should be working on that, and they're not.
Yeah, they got stuck in the whole, hey, it worked before, let's do it again.
Yup. And they might do the very same thing with HLS. They might look at, the whole national team lander and say, hey, this looks like Apollo, even though it isn't. It's a monster compared to Apollo. Let's go with that. It's just a tried and true design. The same kind of conservative approach may happen with HLS. I certainly hope not. I think that it puts Artemis at significant risk if we go with this option.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I got to focus on my work. So have a happy Father's Day, and I got to head out.
Thanks for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. Okay, who else do we have? Let's have a look here, see if we have any other comments on the questions on video. Not just yet. So I am more than happy to take some additional questions, comments, etc., from the audience, or just continue to gab along as I do. So what happens if it doesn't get approved? Let's look at this scenario. What occurs if this bill does not go through the House? If this $10 billion gets edited out of the entire process, then what happens? Well, if that does indeed occur, and then the GAO concludes that, that Blue Origin and or Dynetics have been treated unfairly, then NASA is going to be required by the GAO to pick up a second competitor somehow without the money to do it. If the GAO decides that that Blue Origin and Dynetics don't have a case, then it goes on with SpaceX as it is. Although I would not be at all surprised to see Jeff appeal that decision, see that happen, which would again delay Artemis even further. But by his previous behavior when it comes to legal battles, Jeff Bezos does not have a problem with miring things down in the American legal system. He just doesn't. He's a guy who doesn't like to lose, and people, with his kind of success and his kind of money, those kinds of people don't like to lose. I get that, but at the same time, this is really important. Artemis is incredibly important. Returning the human species to the moon is incredibly important. If you lose, you'll lose. I mean, I can understand maybe appealing it, especially if there's more money perhaps in the mix now that Congress is looking at it. But once that is over, if that money does not get approved, then you're pretty much done. And you should just acknowledge that. So we'll see what happens, but obviously we have folks who are not willing to accept defeat very easily. All right, do we have other comments? We have folks who are typing. Is Bezos an unregistered foreign agent? You would think so sometimes with the way that he slows things down, especially even things as far as defense contracting is concerned. Even that has been slowed down by some of some of his legal decisions. So and the moves that he's made. So yeah, I mean, definitely some of the things he's done has not been helpful. I mean, although it didn't really hold up the process, Elon sued as well over the whole military contract award. The fact that he only got 40%, and that the military did not fund an increased fairing size for Falcon Heavy. That's one thing that they required of SpaceX, in order to get that 40% in the first place, was to make a larger fairing for Falcon Heavy and then to not fund it. Elon was very angry about that. He sued and he lost. That's one of the reasons why the bids for these military contracts are actually coming out sometimes with ULA being less expensive, is because because SpaceX is including the cost of fairing development in their bids for these military contracts, in the expense of these things. They're splitting up the cost of developing a new fairing for Falcon Heavy, which in my opinion Elon never wanted. He never wanted an increased fairing size for this rocket because he thinks it's already outdated, or it's going to be outdated very soon when Starship comes into play. So I don't think he really even wants to develop this thing. But now he's been forced to do so in order to get this contract, and he also has to pay for it. So as a result, the cost of these military contracts from SpaceX have gone up. So there's a lot going on. Definitely. How hard is it to manufacture a fairing? Well, actually, and please forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of the company that develops fairings for ULA, but SpaceX actually approached the same company to demonstrate, how they wanted to make it a little bit easier. They tried to subcontract this job of developing a new fairing for Falcon Heavy out to the same company that ULA uses. And then that deal mysteriously fell apart. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least that it fell apart because Tory Bruno said, you are not doing business with those guys. That would be my assumption. Once again, that's just a guess, but if I were him, I would do that. So we'll see. But yeah, it's, I think SpaceX wanted to make it easier on their engineering staff and subcontract the job out, which they were not able to do. So yeah, now they're going to have to do it themselves, and apparently it is a pretty expensive process in order to be able to do this. Does Dynetics and Blue Origin, this is from Darth, have an advantage in the next HLS contract because of size and weight of lunar starship limits landing locations? Yes, I think it does. I mean, I hate to. I don't want to say anything, bad about Lunar Starship or that NASA made a mistake choosing them. I think that it is going to be a workable solution if it ends up being our only choice for HLS. But at the same time, it is a huge ship, a massive ship, and trying to set it down on an uneven surface on the moon could be quite challenging. The Starship is much, much better suited to, set down on a landing pad. There are actually vehicles that are being created, robots that are being created that will create artificial landing pads by fusing the regolith on the moon or on Mars, for that matter, into a flat surface, a landing pad-like surface. This is how important a landing pad is to very large vehicles. So yeah, I think that this will prove to be a bit of a challenge on a number of levels. Also, just in terms of the debris plume produced by trying to decelerate, and I've mentioned this a number of times, 100 metric tons plus cargo, descending to the moon. That's going to be a hell of a debris plume, especially in 1/6 gravity. So, Starship has some issues. I think it is the perfect solution to deliver bases, to deliver huge amounts of supplies to the moon. I think it's an excellent solution for that, and I think that it is the future of space travel. But it isn't the only solution. It isn't the only thing we will ever use ever. I think that there are going to be other types of vehicles, smaller vehicles, that are going to be more appropriate for different types of circumstances. It's just a personal opinion, but I just don't believe that Starship is the perfect solution for every application. I think it's a great solution for a lot of applications, but not all of them. Okay, let's see here. All right, so do we have another hand going up? We have about between 12 and 15 minutes, something along those lines. It took us a little while to get things working here today. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. And this will, my understanding anyway, is this is going to be recorded for folks to watch in the future. So if you guys want to participate in this sort of discussion, this dialogue in the future, all you have to do is become a Patreon supporter. You can do that for as little as $3 a month, and you get to be part of this and ask your questions either down here or up here. So that's entirely up to you, but it definitely would help the channel out. Especially given the fact that I'm going to try to see not one but two rocket launches in Southern California here soon. Okay, so that's enough self-promotion there. Let's move on. Do we have some other questions, other statements that folks would like to make? We have some folks in the audience, and any of you are welcome to put your hand up. Your little tab at the bottom there, in case you've never participated in these sorts of things before, there's a way to put your hand up there to ask a question or to be included in the audience. And we have folks typing as well. And in the meantime, until I see a hand, I'll just keep blathering on because that is what I do. This is a big thing that's happening in the US government right now that's moving through Congress. This bill is huge. It's not just about NASA, it's about innovation in general in this country to compete against the People's Republic of China. It's really clear that Biden regards the People's Republic of China as a threat. I mean, Trump did too. I mean, Trump, he imposed tariffs. He did a lot of things, that the People's Republic of China is not happy about at all. So it is obvious that this country is regarded as being a competitive threat to the United States, and clearly the government of this country does support the scientific initiatives of their various companies there. They definitely throw a lot of government money, a lot of taxpayer money into these programs. There's a lot of subsidization going on as far as that's concerned over in the People's Republic. So as a result, the same sort of thing really needs to happen here in order for there to be a level playing field. So this bill makes a whole lot of sense. And that's one of the reasons why I think it is going to make it through the House. And it may make it through the House without a lot of modifications, just because, I think that the House will probably want it to move through the Senate without a great deal of opposition. This passed with about a 2/3 majority vote in the Senate, a filibuster-proof vote, which is rare in the government these days. The US government very seldom has bipartisan issues of any kind, and yet this passed by a very large majority in the Senate, and I'd say it has a decent chance of passing in the House. But once again, what the House does is often very different than what the Senate does. So it is difficult to say. Oh yes, there is one thing I'd like to mention. There is currently a petition out to revoke Jeff Bezos's right to return to Earth once he goes into space on New Shepard. The petition has tens of thousands of signatures already. I happened to notice it in the news, and I put it on Twitter. And big surprise, I signed it, but of course, it's a joke. But nevertheless, it does indicate kind of where a lot of people's thoughts are as far as Jeff is concerned. I mean, he's got supporters definitely, but at the same time there's a lot of people who I think show a great deal of resentment towards him for a variety of different reasons, and especially in the space community. I mean, that's it really, I mean, what has Blue Origin contributed versus what are they taking away? It's just a very uneven situation. New Shepard is, I mean, yeah, you can do some basic scientific experiments on it. NASA is contracted for some of that, but these things are easily carried out in microgravity and other environments. And you don't have to get them done in 3 or 4 minutes in other environments. So, I mean, it's not that useful. All it's useful for is space tourism. You could say the same thing about Virgin Galactic, but the difference is they came up with Virgin Orbit, and they've gotten to orbit. And now in their next mission, which I hope to see in person, they've got military satellites from the United States going up, a military satellite from Belgium going up, a lot of very important stuff happening in regards to what Virgin Orbit is up to. So, there is a difference between those companies. They're both interested in space tourism, but still, Virgin has accomplished more. And how does that happen? How does that happen with the richest guy on the planet behind Blue Origin? And so, in the space community, I can definitely see the frustration. And Elon makes, of course, his digs every now and then, and some of them I really can't believe that he says it. Most of us are familiar with the things he's said now in the past. So, what's looked like a friendly rivalry for a while, I don't think it's very friendly anymore. I think it's there's a fierce rivalry that now exists between Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And that is, that's got its positives, maybe. I mean, competition breeds innovation in theory, but I haven't seen a lot of innovation on the Blue Origin side yet. I mean, yeah, New Glenn, is a really amazing design. When's it going to get done? I mean, it's been delayed again because it didn't get government funding. How much government funding did, SpaceX's first effort to go to orbit get? None. Elon was on the verge of bankruptcy before that fourth launch of Falcon 1 managed to make orbit. And that's when people started paying attention. And that's when he started getting government contracts. Get to orbit first with your own money, Jeff. Then maybe you can expect some government funding. And yet at the same time, we have a situation developing to where Blue Origin is going to get bailed out with $10 billion worth of funding, which is quite a lot. And yeah, maybe they won't get all of it. Don't forget Virgin Orbit, yeah, 3 plans for long distance suborbital flights. Airborne Bob made a remark about that, and that is indeed true. Virgin Galactic does indeed plan with Spaceship 3 to turn this into a transcontinental suborbital transport to go from, say, LA to Paris in an hour, or an hour and a half, something along those lines. Maybe 2 hours. That would be an amazing accomplishment. Granted, it's going to be expensive for the people on there, but it could still serve a useful, practical purpose. New Shepard, there's no way that it's ever going to be able to get anyone anywhere except straight up and straight down. That's the only purpose that it serves, which is why I call it the 10-minute suborbital bungee jump, which somebody has spent almost $30 million to be the first person on it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It would be nice to have that kind of money. It just would. Like I say, my guess is, and we'll see if I'm right, and I don't know, it may have been revealed to the public as to who this is, but so far, it could be somebody that isn't allowed on the ISS, that NASA would not allow to go on a Crew Dragon, perhaps a Shanghai businessman or something. And I've also theorized, and you guys have heard this in the past, that it could be Kim Jong-un's sister. She has represented North Korea in the past at Olympic events and that sort of thing. I don't think that would be very good publicity for Jeff if that is indeed who it is. But at the same time, if this is an open bid, if this was a truly open bid, then she could very well be part of it. And that would be a huge political event for North Korea if that were to occur. Now, once again, it could have been already be announced in the news as to who this person is. I haven't got the slightest idea. So we are just a couple of minutes away. I've been talking my head off. If we have anybody else, boy, somebody just jumped on too. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Sorry that you're coming in towards the end, but I'm going to give a couple more minutes. Does anybody else have anything else that they would like to ask? Any comments that they would like to make? Please throw your hand up. Those who are in the Discord audience, and make yourselves heard. We have Ryan from the Space Update making a comment, so I'll take that one, and perhaps one more if somebody comes up with a question at the last moment and wants to throw their hand up in the Discord audience. But I am waiting for this question. Once again, thanks so much, everybody, for being a part of this. This is always an enjoyable experience to speak directly to you folks, to actually put a voice with a name. I just love that. And thank you for participating, and thank you for supporting this channel. It means a lot to me. And if anybody else wants to be a part of it in the future, you are absolutely welcome to be. And you can do it for $3 a month, as I said before, on Patreon. And you can be part of this audience. Okay, all that having been said, here's what Ryan at the Space Update. Once again, I want to quickly put out a word for the Space Update. Please like and please subscribe not only to my channel, but theirs. They put out some really good and unique content. Definitely a channel you should support. So that having been said, Skyrora is looking to launch later this year. Then in Europe, we've had them on for the show. Yes, the Space Update has interviewed Skyrora, which I have not. So definitely be a part of that as well. I am so excited about what Skyrora is trying to do. They're a small sat launcher, sure. They're going to be restricted to 500 kilograms or so, sure. But their whole plan on that space tug used for secondary missions to bring down space junk, that sort of thing, that is a wonderful piece of innovation. I am very excited about that, and I can't wait to see this happen with them. And from what I understand, towards the end of this year, Skyrora is going to be going to orbit. I don't think with their XL rocket. I think with the one that comes before that, but that is very exciting indeed. Okay, we have just hit an hour. So in any event, it looks like we're clear of other remarks. So in any event, I just wanted to once again thank everybody for participating. Anybody else who's in the audience, who's watching or in the recorded audience later on, thank you so much for tuning into the channel and getting not only my perspective on this, but others as well, people who support this channel. So thanks to all of you. So until we get a decision, everybody, on what's going to happen with HLS, until Congress finally gets through this process, does their finagling and their arguing and their negotiating, and in my opinion, hopefully passes this, because an extra 10 billion would be good for HLS. Until all of this comes to pass, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.